Thank you for your question. Look forward to answering this.
Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the world's most fucked up topics for 8 minutes each. 5 segments, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, 3 guests tonight. Some singing, a lot of cursing, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how was your Christmas?
It was really lovely.
Good.
How was yours? I think you got COVID.
It did not happen, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Grinch came in the form of the SARS-CoV-2, whatever the hell it is, and it just sort of bypassed me, entirely, which was kind of okay. I mean, it was a mild, thing. It wasn't that bad, but it did kind of suck, and it's been, I avoided it for 3 years. I guess I'm lucky in that.
Yeah, and it's great that you were vaxxed and boosted and all that kind of stuff, and wasn't that bad.
Yeah, my wife didn't get it. My wife, she had it recently enough, and we all didn't get it, and then she got it, and now we all got it, and she didn't get it. So we balanced out. And as you can see,
go on some kind of crazy trip, or go in the middle of go to a show mask free. You're all immune.
I mean, we can now. That is the thing. We get like 90 days, like get out of jail free. It's like
you get 90 days. I think there's the RSV and all those other things. So
there's a lot of things. So as you can see, I'm somewhere else. I am at my parents' house. I am literally in my parents' basement, because today is my mother's birthday. So I got to, instead of doing the Christmas thing, I came here December 30th, the birthday of LeBron James, Tiger Woods, Janice Oliar. One of those 3 is not like the others. It's my mom.
Happy birthday to Janice. I should have brought my hat out, my birthday hat, but you make sure she knows that we're sending our love and wishing her happy birthday. I'm back in front of the fireside chat.
I thought that looked familiar.
Who caught that at the beginning of COVID might notice. Just because, 1, it's really cold out, and I wanted to sit by the fire and kind of grizzly here. But 2, I just thought it might be nice as we reflect back on the year.
I feel like fireside and New Year's Eve kind of go together.
I feel like they do. Yeah.
Because we're gonna throw the old year into the flames and consign it to the flames. That's what we're gonna do.
I would love it. Okay. I'm ready. Burn it. Burn that year. It was a horrible year for me personally, so I'm ready for it to be over.
I think, like I said, I had a pretty mild strain. The booster, please go get boosted. It really does make a difference, I think.
Yeah.
So the main thing is I was like tired and out of it and really, really spacey. Like I'm not a big stoned guy, but I felt stoned. Like I'd be like, I have to go to the other room and do X. And then 2 hours would go by, and then it'd be like in the other room, be like, oh my God, I'm going to do X now. And I thought this was like amazing, so I was really kind of just sort of spacey. And I was having trouble distinguishing reality from like COVID fever dream, which is why COVID haze. So I was sort of paying attention to the news, and I would read things that I'm pretty sure happened, but looking back on it now, they're so crazy that I'm not positive that they did. So I thought to lead off this thing into our first segment here, maybe you can help me. I'll just throw you these things, and you can tell me, did these things actually happen? not just in the last 2 weeks, but this year in general? Or is this just, you know, COVID? Is it the
All right,
coronavirus? Can you help?
let's
Okay.
go.
So, is Bibi Netanyahu back in charge of Israel? Because wasn't he like gonna go to jail and stuff? I mean, wasn't that, I thought that was like a done. Is he back? Is that, I dreamed that, right?
No, the thug is back. He's
Ah,
back. I think. At last I paid attention to it, he had aligned himself with um uh, Israel's version of I don't even know, like maybe like the most fundamental extreme, like the Proud Boys as a party was kind of deal.
yeah,
In order to get back in, somehow they had a lot of votes. I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know. I do not understand it other than we've lived through it here, right? So, um, but there's no signing up for this guy again. This guy's he's just a strong man, and I'm sorry, any nation that feels like they have to cling to a strong man at this point in time with all of the history of how we know how that goes. Um, yeah, you
it's
know,
sad. It's sad.
I am
Um,
checked out of that. It's like whatever happens to you happens to you. I don't know what to say. Like this guy's he's a criminal. He's a criminal. He's part of a criminal network. This isn't because it's not liking people's policies or anything like that any more than it has been with Donald not liking who he is or his personality. As much as people want to gaslight you and make you, at least for me, gaslight and try to make it sound like those of us who have resisted this shit, we're doing so because of one of the isms, racism or what, instead of which are grounds for should be grounds, right?
yeah,
Um, it's not. There's no equality here. There's no both sides here. There's no like whataboutism. Donald Trump is a hardcore criminal, part of a criminal network. And so is Bibi. I'm sorry, he is.
yeah.
Don't let spies become your leaders.
Probably not a good
I
idea.
also think that's not a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So yes, I'm so sorry to inform you. I
yeah.
believe that
It's
is true.
it's not a good one. That's not
Yeah.
good. Okay,
As
so
much as I'm checked out.
this other thing, and I feel like this can't be real. Did Long Island really elect a Republican congressman who lied about his work history, his educational background, his criminal record, his wealth, his U.S. citizenship, being gay, being Jewish, being the son of a 9/11 victim, being the employer of Pulse nightclub victims, and the
Oh my
fact that he
god.
took millions of dollars maybe from Russia? Is the GOP going to allow this? And actually, you don't have to answer the second part, but this guy's
The
for
last
real.
question? Of
He's
course I
all
know.
over Twitter now. This guy is a real person.
Yeah, he's a real person. This is real. It is
Okay.
crazy. Yeah, just so everyone understands, Greg and I haven't even had a chance to talk or catch up with you on a lot of stuff because you have been so sick,
Yeah.
and it's been the holidays. Yeah, uh, I don't. There's a couple things I don't get about this. One, I don't get why specifically for this guy, it's the biggest 24/7 news cycle story all over social media, all on, whatever news I'm catching. I'm always people talking about him. Oh, we got all the pundits are all talking about it. It's like, oh, maybe he's taking money from foreign powers. Oh, and like, oh, he looks like he's just a liar. And okay, yeah, 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 he is. So I'm hoping that it's because it's attached to a bunch of other stuff that we're going to learn about.
No.
There were sort of rumors about Sam Bankman-Fried investing. Like, I don't want to say I'm hoping. I don't know that I'm hoping, but I can't figure out why it's held people's attention to the degree that it is. Maybe because most of these mainstream media outlets are based in New York, and so it's a local story there that's big, but, it's just another operative. We had Tulsi Gabbard. They didn't freak out like this on Tulsi. Like, all these people are liars. This guy is the worst. Who knows who owns him? He could be so dumb. He seems so dumb. He couldn't pick a story and stick with it. Like, if you're gonna flip someone or massage someone to be your asset, and if you're a foreign power and run and make sure they get money through Victor Vexelberg's, cousin, whatever the McFuck, constant doing things the same fucking way all the time, Ruski shit. Whatever that shit is, you're gonna pick someone. I don't know that this guy needed to be in on it. He seems like he's a complete fabulist, and something's profoundly wrong with him, as there's something profoundly wrong with all of these people that end up being used like this. But yeah, he got a lot of money from from Intrater, who we all know who that is, which is connected to Vexelberg. That was for people who might be watching this elsewhere, that's the same sort of Russian oligarch that plowed a bunch of money into Michael Cohen's LLCs that he set up for Donald. So it's the same money, Russian money. There's more Russian money that Donald got, a lot more, but that money's behind this very bizarre person. And what the fuck is wrong with you, New York? You tell us, Greg Olear. You tell me what's wrong with New York that they fell for that level of a fabulist and a con.
Long Island is not New York. Long Island is its own thing. I can't claim any responsibility for
there it is. Okay.
When we have our second guest on, we will ask him what he thinks about.
Okay, we'll ask him.
We'll put a pin in that because I see him laughing.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Backstage.
Perfect.
There's a show called What They Do in the Shadows, which is about these vampires that live in Staten Island, which is also not part of New York in my view. So there's a familiar. The vampires have this familiar named Guillermo, and this guy Santos looks like somebody who is in an episode of that where he shows up to try to replace Guillermo as the familiar to the vampires. But then by the end of the episode, they realize he's a liar, and Guillermo, lets him have it.
He's like, oh, Guillermo lets him. Oh,
yeah, I can't.
Same character.
He's a one episode arc character. Okay.
I feel like that's the same for this congressman.
Yeah, my main thing scrolling was like, I'm already sick of this. It's just, I know people are like, let's think it's funny that he's lying about this and he's lying about that. And it's like, it's not actually that funny.
It's not original. It's artless. Yeah. It is boring. It's the same old, call it what it is.
Yeah. No one's even done, I haven't even seen Tommy Flanagan yet. And we haven't even seen that. And that's the only way that this could possibly be clever. So,
Okay, good.
Tommy Flanagan, right?
I will tell everybody.
That's the John Lovitz character who lies all the time on SNL from like 30 years ago. That, yeah, Morgan Fairchild. Sure. That's the ticket. That guy. Okay. We haven't even seen that. So we haven't even seen that level of anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So did Elon Musk really reply to a guy with 600 followers who told Musk that he has the impulse control of a toddler and you have tiny testicles?
Yes.
Okay. And he really did buy Twitter, right? That happened?
Yes, that happened.
Okay. Are people aware of this? Have there been a lot of stories about this? Do the Tesla investors do they know?
I think they know.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I think they're up on it.
Yeah. I don't know a damn thing about finance, but I sold my Tesla shares in April and May. Haha. Okay.
Ha-ha.
Next, are Daniel Craig and Janelle Monáe in White Lotus 3? And how did Mike White turn that around so fast?
Well, okay, the obvious no is because Janelle Monáe is in it, and Mike White is pretty white. So hopefully this third season will have some folks of color in it. Let's hope.
Yeah.
White.
Yeah.
We love your show, but come on. It kind of played that way weirdly, didn't it?
Yeah,
I think everyone's ready to send up the rarefied air, the folks that occupy that level of wealth. Just send, it's about time for that to come crashing down. Chris Nolan's Catwoman in that Dancing Scene with Batman was ahead of her time because she called it. It's like, no one's gonna let you guys keep eating this level of cake. And I think we might be getting there.
I don't know.
We'll see.
By the way, we're talking about glass onion, by the way, because I didn't say
Right.
it.
Oh, I'm
Anybody-
sorry.
And
Yeah,
no, for anybody that didn't see.
we didn't even say what we were drinking. I'm drinking tequila. I don't know what you're drinking.
I'm drinking rye whiskey with a splash of something, seltzer, in these glasses that were my grandparents' 20th wedding anniversary presents. They're very lovely
Nice.
that I found in my parents,
It's fun to be an adult rooting through your parents' sort of good stuff, right? You
Yeah.
really can see it differently and appreciate it. It's
I'm
like,
taking this
these
home.
are
with
nice
me.
glasses. Yeah.
They are nice glasses. I
Yeah.
know. They, that's the way that it goes.
Yeah, it's like that in my house too.
Okay,
find
back on
China
Tesla
from,
quickly. Did you set the timer, by the way?
I did, and it's already on the second segment.
Okay,
We're
we're almost
rolling into two
there.
segments here.
So did Tesla change its logo so that the T looks like the one in the original Trump Pence insignia, where the T was fucking the P, or was it always that way and we pretended not to notice?
I have no idea.
It was always that way, and we pretended.
Was
not
it
to notice.
always that
Next
way?
time you see the Tesla logo, remember in your brain. Remember when that Trump they released.
I
that
remember
with
the
T
Trump
with the P.
with
It's
the
the
T
same
and the
fucking
P.
T. It's the same T. It's been there the whole time, but we didn't want
Oh.
to say anything. And now the T actually stands for Tate, as in Andrew Tate.
Well, all their money originally did seem to come from the same place. So that reminds me of there was this raid in Syria of an ISIS stronghold actually that was there, and some reporters found some paperwork and stuff that actually ISIS had a logo, and it just so happens if you superimpose it on top of the Rosneft logo, it's about the same as the Russian oil company. And I'm like, so it's all coming out of the same office in St. Petersburg somewhere.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So they need new art. Well, the artlessness,
The
shines.
artlessness. Yeah. They're trying. Greg.
Is one of our 9 Supreme Court justices really married to like crazy Facebook lady? And does this crazy Facebook lady have like undue influence over like all of the right-leaning justices? And what the fuck is going on with it? This is a real thing in this country.
Yes.
It's that level of corrupt.
Yes.
That can't be real. That woman cannot be. That has to be somebody I had a nightmare about.
No.
You sure?
Nurse Ratchet is real.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem good. It doesn't seem like
It's
maybe
not good.
like if you're that dumb that you think that the Trump stuff, like that the election was rigged and all this shit. If you're really legitimately that dumb and you're married to somebody that dumb, you're probably too dumb to be on the Supreme Court. I'm just going to say.
Yes.
I know people were like, she's smart.
As a white woman, I'm telling you, there's a certain sort of flavor of my whatever that is toxic enough to bring down history's greatest democracy. Just one of them. That's how.
Well, that's encouraging.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
All right. So the last question: has the DOJ or this Jack Smith guy indicted Trump yet?
Oh, that's the COVID talking. That's the COVID. You're still in a haze to ask that question.
Are you sure? Because I saw this magazine cover and he's alone.
No.
He's not in solitary confinement.
That's it. That's the COVID.
Oh, okay.
That's the COVID.
Okay.
All right, we're running really low on time.
Okay.
I want to say one thing about that. Let me come back to that Jack Smith thing.
Yeah.
It's not even that thing. It's like what we have down here in terms of content is king. I tried doing this, Greg. I don't know I think I was even in front of this fire, and it was a long time ago. I tried doing everybody, it's about the content. The whole Trump presidency is about content. They'll do anything for content. They'll install corrupt people in certain places for content. Trump, they write out their storylines. This is what he knew how to do. This is all he knew how to do. This is all Roger Stone knows how to do. This is all, if you boil down the skill sets of the people around the Donald presidency that enabled him, that are there, all this stuff that people say, oh, it's, rat fuckery, all that stuff. What is it really? If you boil down even the rat fuckery, It's content. It's a storyline. You have to have a narrative. You got to have something that you're taking out to the public and saying, oh, this is what happened. This is why I'm a victim. Oh my God, can you believe that? That's what allows them to otherize people. That's one kind of content is, it's all just fucking words, right? And images sometimes. And so the first impeachment, Zelensky, what was that about for Donald? It was about getting Zelensky to say the thing. And how many times have we heard stuff like this where it's Donald saying, it doesn't matter if it's true. We just need you to say it. Just go on camera and say that you're investigating Joe Biden. That's all we need because it's part of this. It's on page 12 of the script of this thing we've written of how we're going to take everything down, how we're going to hold on to power forever, what I'm going to do to win the next election. And then how we're going to there were mechanics of what they were up to with this coup and insurrection. But it's been an ongoing coup since Donald was facing the prospect of, first of all, of Mueller possibly taking him down, which is the Jack Smith 2.0, right? And secondly, and most threatening to him, even though as threatening as that was, oh my God, Joe Biden is going to win. If Joe Biden runs against me, I'll lose this. And as soon as he had that, it was, let's start with the narrative. Let's get the content going. We got to create a storyline here, right? So that we can have our plan. The insurrection, the failure of the insurrection, as one of our guests here will really make clear for everybody yet again, I think, and has for 2 years now, it didn't stop the plan, so to speak. It just interrupted the narrative. It fucked up the content, right? Okay, that's what it really thwarted. It thwarted Donald and all of his cronies, their storyline for how to talk Americans into giving up their democracy and embrace an autocracy so that he could be installed forever as president. Just had to talk everybody out of it. And that the Capitol Police and then the and Metropolitan Police holding back the people, finally convincing Donald that he had to put out a statement because there was going to be real bloodshed, it was just going to be horrible and destroy him. And he finally begrudgingly fucking did it, said, go home, right? So that they would go home. And then Pelosi and Schumer and McFuckfuss, purple hand bullshit guy, the crypt keeper, get on the floor and go ahead and certify the election, right? But that didn't, they had more to go, everybody. It wasn't just, we'll bring in the National Guard. That, of course, was a big thing that didn't get to happen. It wasn't just the plan for the day and the plan for usurping democracy. There was a story that got interrupted. And I think if there's any hope for Jack Smith coming in with his hunt down, remember his job is to hunt down the classified document shit, right? Investigate that on our behalf. We're going to call in this guy to look at that. Did this ex-president commit espionage and all these other things? I think that's going to run into J6 because I think part of what Donald took that was classified, this is just me speculating, there might be some reporting to this, was the Crossfire Hurricane, the Russia investigation, the information out of the FBI around all that, because I think that was part of the storyline of even post-insurrection, we've got control, National Guard is out. Now I'm going to reveal to everybody how the deep state really did come after me, how the FBI really did hunt me, how there was all this illegality and they were involved and this was a fake election and blah, 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 blah. There was more to the story that got interrupted and he took the story goods. He took the script with him. The stuff for the script with him down to Mar-a-Lago because the plan was always to finish this story. So somehow make it work. Because I think they spent a lot of time developing, like in screenwriting and in movies and in podcast writing, we spend a lot of time in development. We write, there's many drafts to the script. We're working out the story beats. We're making sure it's going to work. If it's a teleplay or a screenplay, it's, can we afford it? Is it within the budget? Maybe we don't have the big explosive scene. Maybe we got to change it. You develop a whole thing beginning to end. usually in outline form before you even start writing. But certainly it's all written and done before you put the money to it, real money to it to make it. So I just feel like they had this whole thing because content is king. It was
Content is
king to
king.
Donald when he was in office, and it's still how they run everything and do everything. And I wish we would see more on that. So if my 2023 looking forward is, I got tired of tooting that horn for so long,
Mhm.
but as if maybe people could kind of wake up and get it, that this is just storytelling, and the ways that you rip the storylines out from underneath people, if you can do that, like what Greta Thunberg just did with one tweet to Andrew Tate, she ripped his whole storyline out from underneath him about who and what he was. It discombobulated him, and then bingo, he's arrested.
Yeah.
So it would help if we all kind of figured out how to do that all across the board, because
right,
it's the narratives that are killing us.
So that's your 2023
Yeah.
wish.
Yeah.
Here's mine. There are Nazis in the street, and the law now lets them tweet, and the MAGA fascists hold the House and the court. Our democracy might die, 'cause the DOJ won't try and POTUS on the crimes in the J6 report. But here's Jack Smith, though we're all so excited. At long last, Donald Trump will get indicted. 7 years is a long time to wait, but it's already New Year's Day. Why so much delay? After Comey, Mueller, Garland, and Ray, I won't get fooled again. Just call us when he's in cuffs. Yeah. Okay, so I did that like at 4:00 yesterday, and Chunk did this today. So
I know this is the first video. I didn't have to do anything with you guys. Are like, we got
he added the screen at the beginning. He did this whole thing. Thank you, Chunk.
Thank you,
Like,
Chuck.
really, just above and beyond. I gotta say.
We need that dancing, big Donald, the dancer.
It perfectly conveys the whole thing. Okay,
yeah, we need him.
Let's move along. Our first guest has intro music, so let's just play it.
Dana, Lysis, Danalysis. Analysis with Dana.
Hey, says Dana. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks. Happy New Year.
Happy
New Year, Dana.
It's finally raining here. It's been raining, and then we're going to have rain for like 10 days. I'm so excited. So
yeah. Well, you had earthquakes there, so you need a little bit of a little bit of relief. Yeah.
So last time you were on, you spilled all this tea about Elon Musk and Tesla and how he made his money and the car credits and all this stuff that I personally did not know. And I feel like right after that happened, then it was everywhere. So clearly people are watching this show and cribbing your stuff. So we wanted to have you on to talk about him and Tesla and tech and what you think might be something, stuff to look out for in 2023. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a couple of thoughts I have on that, actually. Everyone's talking about what's happening with Tesla right now. Stock down, what are they going to do? What are the analysts saying? Frankly, if he can pull $40 billion out of the company, he still has about $50 billion left, right? He could have used that $40 billion maybe to pay down debt for Twitter and make it a better place because he's such a great person. But I have no idea what he's doing with that money, and nobody else does either because he's a private company now. I think that Tesla stock is a good buy right now. I mean, I'm no stockbroker and I'm not telling anybody to buy it, but for a lot of people, they're buying it. I mean, all the equity firms are getting back into it. People think it's risky, but they see long term that he's still going to be doing great.
Wow.
He tweets about how successful the company is going to be, and he believes it's going to be the greatest company on earth.
Oh, wow.
What about Mars, though? Will it also be the greatest company on Mars?
Yes. If we have a little fairy dust, we need some fairy dust for that. And other people are saying that, one of the things about him is that he's a genius. Well, I'm not saying he's a genius. I just think he knows how to use his mouth to talk about content that helps him. And he does that very well. And what people think is when he's talking about all these big things like Neuralink, who wants to put a thing in your head so you and I can talk telepathically? I don't get it.
Does anyone know how many animals have died for Neuralink?
I do not know the number, but he's actually looking for the FDA to give him clinical trial approval for this product.
Oh my God.
I think it's going to take a long time to get it done, and maybe I'll go through some more investing, but
he's not ready for bio devices.
People are saying I picked something up. It's like when people are talking about him, he loves it. That's why he bought Twitter. His thing is he wants to be as great to you and me and to everybody, but he's just not a good person. He's a terrible business person in many ways because he doesn't like to plan, and many businesses do, but it's helping him. He's doing okay right now, and I think Tesla's going to be just fine.
I did not expect that, Dana.
I know.
I did not expect that analysis.
I had to look at all the numbers.
Damn it.
Tesla still has great people working for them. I don't like Tesla. I will never buy a car from Tesla. Okay. They are going to go through some things. And all the other businesses that are buying those EV licenses from him, they're increasing their ability to compete with him. So I think Tesla's going to go through a few things. And one day, maybe it's at that growth point where it's going to do some, it's not going to be growing as fast. But I think it's going to come out okay. He can't continue to pull money out of it like it's a bank.
Right.
That's the one thing he can't do.
And did he get a margin call or not? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, it was reported by Barron's that he had a margin call, but they were wrong. He did not. He doesn't have a margin loan.
Okay.
Where you have to make sure that you have money in a safe place that they can access in case you don't have any more money anymore to pay off your debt. He borrowed his money in a different way, probably through a leveraged buyout loan. And so he used Tesla stock and equity plus a loan. I think it's about 13 billion. What's 13 billion when you have so much? So they were wrong and they corrected it. But if he did have a margin call, that would say that somebody's a little worried about where his money's going. But that didn't happen, I don't think, according to the news. In terms of Tesla or even Elon Musk and Twitter, I keep saying this. He's using Twitter as a mouthpiece. He's made it the wild, wild west. He loves the fact that everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
And he's not making Twitter better. He's making it worse. But
although he did bring back on his friend, that's his buddy. He brought his friend back on. And if he hadn't brought back this guy, the guy
Andrew
would
Tate.
never have been busted. Andrew Tate.
I know. Oh, Andrew Tate, I know. That was just such a good, epic, wonderful tweet from
Epic thread! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked. Whatever, that whole thing worked. But the bottom line is I just still can't figure out what he's trying to do with Twitter.
Yeah.
And the other thing is SpaceX. The only way SpaceX is making any revenue, I mean, if you call it that, is they're getting contracts from the federal government.
Right.
It's valued at $140 billion. He's got United Arab Emirates, Dubai Holding, as investors in that business, but it's really not earning revenue. So it's really overvalued. I don't get it. But his genius is he knows how to say the right things, talk about the future, going to Mars, putting fairy dust on everything. And that's where it happens for him. And so it works, but it's not going to work long term. I mean, overall, investors want something that's not so risky. So as far as Tesla, it's probably going to be just fine. It's probably not going to be rocky over the next year or so. And then his comments about stagflation, like, really? I don't even understand.
I don't know what that comment was. What did he say?
Well, stagflation means that, you've got high unemployment, your economy's not growing, and you've got all kinds of issues related to high inflation. Well, we have our inflation is easing. It's not as high as it used to be. It's getting better. I don't think we have stagflation. I think he was really talking about Tesla out loud. I think he's concerned about Tesla competition. Okay. He's just counting his cars. They're having problems with it. They're moving operations to Mexico for builds. I think he's got a lot of other issues. And I think that was talking out loud. And yeah, the market's going to be crazy.
He was just trying to cover for the fact that the market is kind of up and doing well, and he's plummeting. So he's trying to find something to blame it on other than himself. But there's only one common denominator here. There's a clue. He doesn't want anyone to see the clue that it's actually him, that investors are.
I think that from a perspective, I think you asked me, like, what do I think is going to be happening here, or like what will happen with him in the future. I think as long as people listen to him, he's going to be there, and as long as we pay attention to him, he'll just speak louder and louder and louder. And he really did. He's moved around all the buttons. I know, it's terrible. I can't believe he's trying to tank Twitter. So
2023 looks better for Elon Musk.
I don't think it looks better. I think that it's going to be frustrating for Elon Musk. I think we, as an economy, are going to do a little better, and it's going to be frustrating for all of us too. But I think that we're not in as bad a shape as we think we are. And according to my broker and myself, we're in the Goldilocks economy. It's not so bad and it's not so good.
Nothing wrong with Goldilocks.
Perfect timing.
Nothing wrong with Goldilocks.
You nailed it, Dana.
That was great. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Dana.
Okay. Last time you were here, you said they make their money with these credits, but I feel like the big three are also going to get credits now because they're making more electric cars. And if there's more electric cars made by the big three, people will buy those cars because they don't want to buy Tesla because fuck Tesla. And also Teslas suck. They explode and they drive into things and they're bad. And he's an asshole. Yeah. So, I don't know. I saw that Motley Fool was like, buy the Tesla stock now. And I was like, I'm out. I'm out.
I'm happy with.
I only buy stock in companies that I believe in. That's my own personal.
That's true.
That's my own personal. That's my investment advice. Only buy shit from. I'm not a broker.
Neither am I.
When E.F. Hutton talks, I do listen because in the 80s.
Good.
Okay, our next guest also has a theme song, so we're gonna play it. Andrew Laufer.
Hey guys,
how are you?
I love that gift from you, Stephanie.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Such an awesome intro. I love it. It's great.
Now, before we get to the matter at hand, for those who don't know, you were the one raising your hand in shame, having living in Long Island in the George Santos district. Yes. What are people saying in your neck of the woods locally? Are people like, what the fuck?
New York 3. Yeah, I know a lot of people that worked with his opponent, Robert Zimmerman. I think I met Zimmerman a couple times. Santos is just a fraud. You got to understand what kind of community I live in and the way the North Shore is.
Okay, tell us.
There's a lot of rich people here, all right? Especially in my town, of Great Neck, Manhasset, whatever is covering New York 3. And there are people that all they care about is Israel and lower taxes and, which, those are fine. But if those are your only guidelines, you're going to be kind of missing out on some other things here. So they all just voted for Santos. They just all piled on, the various communities here, and they just went berserk and went for Santos. But he's a liar. I think a lot of them are disappointed, to say the least. I don't know what's going to happen. Personally, I think he's going to serve his 2 years, and that'll be that, unless there's some criminal charges that come down. I know he's being investigated by Nassau County DA, New York AG Tish James, and the Feds, EDNY, DOJ's office there. So he's going to be looking at some stuff. I mean, my thinking is that, depending on what he put on his filing documents for office, for his seat, if he misrepresented any of that stuff, well, that's a problem.
How is that a problem? That's a legal problem?
That's a legal problem. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just misrepresenting yourself. It's committing fraud. You say you made all this money doing X, but you really made it all from a wire transfer from a, shady individual who's connected with other shady individuals. That makes you a shady individual.
Yeah.
So, I think that those are things that could be coming down the pipe for Mr. Santos. I'm sure I'll have a chance to see him around town. I see these videos of him like at the diner that I go to, and other places and stuff when he was running. It's like, I'm gonna run into this clown at some point, and because it's me, I'm gonna open my mouth and tell him he's a clown, and then it'll be a lot of fun for the two of us.
Has that happened?
I want to see that.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm sure one of my kids will like video it and put it on like Snapchat or something. Who knows?
You got to take the selfie with him first and then destroy him.
By the way, you're a scumbag. So
we'll do that. Yeah.
No, he's a piece of garbage. He it's like, I was thinking about this the other night. They take, and I think I've said this a number of times, I think we've all kind of regurgitated it. They find the worst people that are semi-competent, that can run a campaign, that can present themselves to the public, that can do whatever. I think Herschel Walker wasn't semi-competent, but those types of just scumbags that they have over a barrel one way or the other, or they promised riches beyond their wildest dreams, and they just prop them up and let them run for office and throw tons and tons of money at them and saturate the markets. And then these clowns get elected, and then here we are, and here we have Trump, and especially when you have an electorate, which I think is less so now, but that's just not engaged enough. You're going to end up with garbage. It's like the garbage. The garbage is placed on top of society, and is then going to run us. And what are you going to get from something like that? You're going to get a bunch of freaking morons who are just trash and who don't give a crap about anything other than themselves. And they're
why do you think they wanted him? Just so he could flip a district to take control of the House, and because he fit a. Even though it was all fabulism, it was the fabulism itself fit the narrative that your district needed. Clearly,
yeah. No, I mean, it was all about pro-Israel.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was. There's a very strong contingent of Persian Americans in my town who are very wealthy, who just their first primary, goal is just Israel. You support Israel. You do whatever you can for Israel. We love you, and you hate Obama, Hillary, and everyone else. You're the best. We don't like so much that you're gay. Okay. It turns out he may not be, but we'll suck all that up, and we'll make you our congressman. And they have an excellent turnout. They're very organized. They get the word out. They're there. And if we're not on our game every freaking election, we're going to end up with psychopaths in office. Yeah, and that's just how it works here.
Yeah,
that's at least in my town.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for enlightening us on that. The other news thing that made me think of you is this the Alan Weisselberg thing. Is he going to Rikers? Is that where he's going? Is he there? Initially they if you're sentenced, Rikers is a short-term stay, pretrial detainee and short-term. If you're under a year, if you're over a year, you're going upstate. Usually they'll take you to Dannemora, Clinton Correctional Facility. The irony there, and then they'll transfer you around. But it's gonna be like Harvey Weinstein. It's gonna be no one's gonna touch him because he'll get shanked and he'll die.
And they're not going to allow something like that to happen to such a high profile guy, even though they don't care about anyone else getting shanked,
Yeah.
getting their, facial features cut off. And
Yeah, he's going to Dannemora, I think. He's going to the classic gangster prisons.
I've been there. I've deposed CO correction officers up there after taking a ferry from Vermont over Lake Champlain. It was gorgeous.
That's right. It's
Going,
gorgeous.
going over there
Cold.
on another case where my guy got cut up real bad, and I was deposing some, as not so much about what I was doing there, but just the picture of it. It looks like an old school gangster, prison, with the guard towers up top, and like it's crazy.
It is.
It's crazy. I'm like,
that's where
dude,
Luciano was for a while, and that's just like all the guys from the 30s and 40s and 50s.
Yeah,
they did. They had the big ones. They had a stint there one way or another.
Yeah, and I'm sure they ate very well, and they were very comfortable in their little room that they were hanging out playing pinochle or whatever they were doing.
They didn't like. I think some of the stuff from Luciano's he didn't like it all that much. He just wanted out of prison, and so he wanted back and go back to Sicily. So speaking of Mike White, I think he was back in Palermo.
Yeah. So okay, so we wanted to pick your brain about looking ahead at the year coming up, and from a legal standpoint, what are things you're looking at that we should keep an eye on? Are there SCOTUS cases coming up? Are there anything about that we might not?
Well, the state legislator decision, legislative decision regarding votes, that's going to be a huge decision. I think that's going to go our way. Otherwise, might as well just go back to the Articles of Confederation, where all the states can just negate, it's even going to be worse than that, because it's going to be 50 different countries at that point, because we could just ignore federalism. We can ignore the Fed and just overturn elections left and right and put up there whoever we want, because we have these state elect.
If we can overturn the Feds, can't we overturn the Supreme Court? That's a federal thing. I mean,
look, at that point, we're just, the republic is crumbling, and we're on our own. We'll have confederations of states probably getting together, and that'll be that. I don't really see that happening at all. These are doom and gloom, things that may have a shot, but it's unlikely.
What's a legal case that you think is sort of either going to possibly come up, or maybe already in the process, an investigation that could turn into a case in the courts, where you think we really have a shot at a sort of a bulwark against that?
Right. I think the bulwark against that is really, the way, they're so contradictory, this SCOTUS, they're originalists, except when they don't want to be an originalist. So, qualified immunity is an excellent example of that. That's a judicial construct, and, that should be negated and gotten rid of. Instead, they're destroying, causes of action like Bivens and Federal Tort Claims Act and all these other things, making it impossible for litigants on the federal level, at least, to succeed. Although under 1983, I'm going to digress so much. They've actually come down with some good decisions, like for malicious prosecution. The Thompson decision was an excellent decision that we had recently regarding that. But what I think next year is going to be is criminal law palooza. I honestly, in my heart of hearts, feel that all these people affiliated with Trump and others are going to be looking at indictments. I just can't imagine that not happening with the amount of work that Fulton County DA has gone into, that other DA's offices that we don't even know about have gone into, that New York State AG Tish James has gotten into. We even have Manhattan DA's office waking up again. The feds are going to, Jack Smith looks like he could kill someone with his eyeballs,
with his beard.
With his beard spikes or whatever. I cannot imagine, given the multitude of crimes that we've seen occur in real time. Regarding the confidential, the classified documentation at Mar-a-Lago. There's just, Lindsey Graham. It's just, we as a republic, we really have to come to terms with whether there are two systems of justice here, whether we ignore the rich and powerful, when they commit crimes, or give them leeway to some degree, to varying degrees, or we treat them like everyone else. And that's really what it needs to come down to. Because if we don't, we're just wasting our time here.
I love hearing this from you, Andy. So
Yeah.
for people who, I think all our audience knows who you are and what you do, but for folks that might need a refresher or are new, you practice law where you actually take care of people and their rights when they're in the criminal justice system. And so you see a perspective of whether we have equal justice under the law from the most vulnerable folks in the system possible.
Yeah. I mean, look, I believe that we need to fight as hard for people, even some people that we may not like. Let's say you have a client who's just obnoxious, but it's not, it comes down to it. It's not necessarily about that client. It's about the Constitution.
Yeah.
It's about all of our rights. It's about ensuring that the courts and the prosecutor's office and law enforcement live up to their duties. It shouldn't be easier on them with things like qualified immunity and other types of defenses that they're allowed to raise. It should be harder because they have a greater responsibility. They have the power of incarcerating us. They have the power to kill us if they believe they have probable cause to do so.
Yeah, we've completely lost talk about losing a narrative. We lost the narrative about the death penalty and imposing it, and where we were. I don't know if folks can even remember where, before all of this chaos, the kinds of things we were actually looking at and discussing were really important, and they seem to have gone. Just in this sort of lead up to, like, what do we remember from 2022? Well, I remember Roe being overturned.
Yeah.
And I feel like people don't give a fuck about that anymore.
It's a steamroller, because if it doesn't affect them directly, doesn't matter. It's just where we live right now. We can't. I'm a capitalist through and through. All right. I believe, I'm not, there's other, we talk so much about the right, but there's also threats from the left too. Like, the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, who want to ban capitalism. The answer for the far right isn't the far left. The answer that we are looking for is governance from the center, center left, center right. We want things to, we don't want things whipsawing. We want things smooth as best as we can. We want negotiation. We want, compromise. That's really what we want. And, in order for things to go forward and not be a death match, between opposing viewpoints. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to have a completely different position as a conservative Republican. But as long as at the end of the day, you're working towards the same thing, betterment of the country, not just via words, because that's easy. It's through action. That's all that matters. At the end of the day, you want to move the ball forward for America. And
I don't think there are good faith actors in
the Republican Party.
I don't. I'm sorry.
You know what? I think that
I'm past it.
We're saying goodbye to two of them, though. Kinzinger and
I just don't care about it. I don't believe any of them. I don't. There is no there. It's not. It's just not the same thing. It's become something else, and we have nothing to fill the void, and that's really the issue. You're always going to have extremism and weirdos and whatever, but what's happened to that party is something. It's become a full-on criminal enterprise that has no problem getting on its knees for foreign intelligence services, and that's it's not American anymore. As soon as it does that, and that's me. So I hear that, and it's not that I understand the polarization and that it takes two to tango and all that kind of stuff, but this is just one of these things isn't even in the same universe. It's not. We're not all in the same conversation about what we're doing here. There's a hostile act going on still to actually kick off our democracy and plant it put an authoritarian model in, which isn't capitalist either.
No.
And so that's just where I stand. I think we
Yeah.
have to get tougher on that line. I do. I think we have. I think
Yeah.
in 2023, if anything else, it's like I just can't handle the horse shit anymore. I can't handle the fucking bullshit.
No,
that
I
we're
agree.
so-
I agree
that-
with you.
That
I agree with
things
you.
are equal, or there's this
Yeah.
over here and that over there. And because the other thing that has done is it has deteriorated the role of real journalism, and we have a possibility right now. There's some kind of stuff going around Trump's finances and these tax returns, and looking at that, and even the Santos stuff that we were talking about. That's journalism digging in and going in and saying, okay, let's just have some demonstrable facts here, right? And have a shared reality, and then expose this so that people maybe will start, the legislators maybe start paying attention to the corruption within. So maybe we can get some new laws passed so that people start reacting in a way as if, oh, fuck, we're caught. Let's not do that again. And my belief is that's so important, and our founders are so important to have that check on power in place and constitutionally protected, because otherwise the power is going to run away with itself. And that's what's happening right now with the failure for people to just go, no, there's no both sides. These people are criminals. This was a fucking insurrection. They're committing sedition. They're trying to overthrow we all need to be on the page of that's the reality of what's fucking happening.
Yeah.
And an entire party is behind it.
Yeah.
Behind it. One party is behind that.
I agree with
And
you.
you need that to be what called out for what it is. It doesn't mean go to the other party. It means hold the criminals accountable. Those things have to stop being collapsed.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of rot. And unless, listen, I'm a positive guy. I'm hopeful that 2023 is the year of justice, because it needs to be. We need a clean slate. I mean, we need to wipe the slate clean, I should say. There's just so much institutional rot, everywhere in our government, in the fourth estate, SCOTUS, legislature, everywhere else. I mean, it's just, and they're trying to, in my opinion, the far left is trying to do the same thing to the Democratic Party slowly.
They're not going to, it's not to where it
they're not on the same level. They're nowhere near each other.
It doesn't require, that's
in the future.
That additive isn't required in order to properly and appropriately assess the threat. It's just not. And the more that reflexive thing to do that keeps happening, what happens over time, what I've watched happening is literally now in retrospect, where you had Donald and Jared Kushner really truly responsible for about 1 million deaths in this nation. That was just one thing they chose in this failed COVID response, is getting treated like, well, you just didn't like them. You just didn't like them. This was no different. And the Republicans didn't like Bill Clinton. Imagine how they felt back then. There's 1 million people dead.
Yeah. I think
there's 1 million people dead.
To Andy's point, the thing that makes me hopeful about the situation is that while the Republican Party and the politicians in the Republican Party are fascists at this point and have been for quite some time, have no interest in governing, have just interest completely in power. The only change they made to the Republican platform in 2016 was to add fluff Putin harder on Ukraine to the platform, which we now know what the significance of that fucking meant, right? But most people in this country are not fascists. We have a long, a quarter of a millennium and counting here where we value liberty and freedom. And even these fuckers value liberty and freedom. They say they do all the time. And I believe them. I think that, I do think
there's a difference between a party and voters.
Yes, but the party needs to change, and the voters need to demand that the party change. And the only way that happens is if the laws get enacted and the fucking evildoers go
right.
to jail. And that's it. What Andy's
That's
talking
right.
about, the rot, that's the whole thing. We're all saying the same thing. The people that did this thing to our democracy need to be rooted out and go to prison. And if that happens, then whatever is left of the Republican Party will reconstitute itself, because this country needs to have two political parties. It's designed to function that way. And right now it does not. That's really in a big picture sense, that's the problem. We don't have two democratic small d parties. We have a democracy party and we have fascists. We need to have two small d democracy parties that argue about like where to spend the money. That's what we need.
Right. They're not in the same system, is what I was saying.
Yeah,
It's not in the same universe. It can't be, if it were ever to come back into the same universe, there would still be far right. Like there's, crazy left. But it's not in that, it's not the same game.
Yeah. Andy, what were you going to say? Then we got to get to last.
Yeah, just really quick. I'm going to say, like, in an authoritarian regime, fascist regime, you can't have a capitalist economy anymore. You need it as a backstop. You need a liberal democracy as a backstop, because there's not going to be any type of if you get screwed over, if your money is wrongfully taken, or if you're thrown in jail for no reason, you're going to have a judiciary that's corrupt, that's beholden to the lead, to dear leader, and you're not going to get anything. So if you fall out of favor of whoever's governing or ruling, you're done. You might as well escape in the middle of the night, get the hell out of there as best you can.
Yeah.
I think I don't think it was crazy for lawmakers, and there were Adam Kinzinger was right in there with it. I don't think it's crazy that current lawmakers, right, that are now some of them being switched over after in January, were saying, we can lose this democracy. It's going to become an autocracy. They knew what the stakes were. They know what they still are. They understand, and they're not pointing fingers at trying. You know what I mean? Like they're like, this is one thing that's going on right now, and we need to concentrate on that one thing and the players in that one thing, because it's not small d democratic. It's not coming from that. It's coming from somewhere else. Yeah.
Okay.
The same place George Santos gets his money, I think.
Yeah.
Probably.
I think so. I think it's a safe bet. Okay, so we don't really have any announcements. We'll be back next week with all the announcements with people sign up. We're very behind. We were actually going to do like a Christmas show as a surprise for all the members, and then I got sick and we couldn't, and I'm sorry. So we're way behind on all this stuff, and I apologize. Okay, our last guest of this year is a filmmaker, and you all know her, and her name is Sandi Bachom. How are you, Sandy?
I used to be on Twitter. I'm still there, but what?
Are you gone? Because no one sees you anymore. No one sees me anymore.
I have 205,000 followers, and I don't see anybody's tweets anymore. I don't know. So if anybody's listening, I think you can follow people. I do with Andrew and Greg and LB. There's a little thing up at I just learned this. That kind of goes around the algorithm, and there's like a little bell at the top of the page, and then and then you get notifications. And they're starting to show up as notifications, but it's so much work.
It's really, they made this into a hellscape. I guess.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, I'm so well. First of all, he's a Nazi. I'm sorry. I wish I had better news from the streets, kids, but
yes,
I was actually outside, not inside, the GOP gala a couple of weeks ago.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and who attended that gala? Marjorie Taylor Greene, talking about butt plugs. Outside, I interviewed James O'Keefe. He had no idea who I was.
He's back on.
He's back on Twitter.
Yeah,
and I immediately blocked him. And every time he puts a Nazi on, I block him. I got my Nazi blocker button. And James O'Keefe was talking about butt plugs when I interviewed him outside. I mean, what the fuck? It's
What?
like fear porn. Yesterday, I
mean,
went
it is the
to
Twitter
the
logo.
drag hour. There was a drag hour protest in Queens it was huge counter protest with about 5 people. There were a couple of actual Nazis from the Goyim Defense League. Have you ever heard of
Oh,
that?
wow.
Oh,
Doing the
wow.
Heil
Oh,
Hitler.
my God.
Yeah. And
Okay.
the Proud Boys were there, and so they're they don't need Trump anymore. They have Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're all ops now. Marjorie Taylor Greene's an op. They somehow moved her to a district in Georgia, and then she ran unopposed, and now she's the most powerful woman in the Republican Party or something.
Yeah, she's Alex Jones, right? She came out of
Yeah,
an Infowars
I'm not sure
derivative.
where she came from. She
She
just
came from
came
that.
out
She
of the
came-
blue. But
No,
there,
she's
you know,
an
Marjorie, Lauren Boebert is an Explore Talent op.
Mhm.
Right.
She actually had a head sheet with Explore Talent. Scott Pressler, whom I filmed saying during an anti-mandate rally at Gracie Mansion, he said, "I have a message for you. We're coming for your school boards." And the next week, they started showing up at the school boards, and the Proud Boys are running for school board, and they're running on grassroots levels like city council and, you know, whatever, look, and they're taking over the country as we speak. And they're
Yeah.
running these people with incredible amounts of money. All the people who were, you know, I've actually interviewed Nick Fuentes, and he's 24 years old. And, you know, it's absolutely terrifying. And at that GOP gala, there were 3 actual Nazis from Austria as guests.
Oh, good.
Wow.
They were guests, and they belonged to the original
Perfect.
Nazi party that they just busted in Germany for you know, whatever that was.
Oh,
a
the
couple of weeks
Heinrich
ago.
the 13th.
Yeah, that party.
Thing?
That's a party they
Ooh.
belong to. These guys.
Ah, perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
OG
So,
Nazis.
I don't
Wow.
know what I'm just, I mean, at least I'll still have a job. Because we know, we all know, oh, there's so and so, you know, we all know who these people are. We can identify them. So the value of what I do, as I see it, is that I'll go to these things and I'll just document who's there. And then, you know,
It is valuable.
somebody else will connect the dots, or I'll do it when I can.
Scott Pressler, by the way, for those who don't know, is the guy.
Yeah.
He's young. He's got this beautiful flowing hair, and he looks like he's like a young Fabio kind of, like he should be on the
Yeah.
cover of romance novel. It's
Yeah.
very fucking weird.
He's very weird. Yeah, the women that love him, the Republican women love him.
Yeah, they love him.
Somebody's giving him a lot of dark money,
Yeah.
crypto, whatever the fuck.
Where's he from?
I don't know, but he's an Explore Talent. You know,
Okay.
you know, he's one of those ops that
seen
run
you
by
film
an
him,
Israeli
Sandy, yeah.
pornographer.
I've seen you film him.
Yeah, I posted his videos occasionally, and then he finally blocked me. And but you know, I still keep posting because I'll still keep doing this. You know, I was born in 1944. My uncle was shot down by the Nazis over the English Channel, and his body was never found when he was 19. And my great grandfather fought that fucking flag that was flying in the Capitol, the Confederate flag. He fought that flag in the Civil War. It's so terrifying what's happening. And I interview Holocaust survivors, so I know how it happens, you know.
Yeah.
But this guy, what's his name? You're so right, Andy. You are so spot on about all they care about is moving the embassy and lower taxes. That's what they're voting for, you know. And even the MAGAs at the Trump rallies. Why do you love him? He moved the embassy. They have no idea what that even means. What does that mean? Because the rapture is going to take place in Jerusalem, wherever they moved it, and then all the Jews are going to be converted. They believe that, and you're all going to go up. I saw Ann Coulter. Whatever happened to her? I saw her actually say that on Donnie Deutsch show once. She said, "When the rapture comes, all the Jews will be converted." And and a look on his face was like,
"This is the story. This is another story. It's another story going." And if you get people to buy into your story,
Yeah,
then,
you're right about
yeah,
Yeah.
this is this old one. You know, that's been
Can
going
we
on.
have
but-
that happen where they just come and rapture just these guys and they just
Yeah.
go away?
Well, the
'Cause
true
that would be
believers.
fine. I would be all in favor of that.
That's
You know,
my
without
name,
the
my film.
Armageddon and the conversion and everything else. Just take
Yeah.
these guys that believe this and put them on a spaceship to wherever.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that this is where it's a beam me up Elon moment.
Yeah, right.
It's
Can we
coming.
converge those two
This whole
narratives?
thing is going
Like
kind of
Elon is the
driving towards
Messiah
that.
or something? Like, is that coming? Is that what's
Well, it's all
happening?
part of the QAnon psyop. You know, I filmed Roger Stone on January 5th. You know, next week is the anniversary. You believe this? 2 years. Nobody has been held accountable.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people have been held accountable, but they had to be. They were
Foot
the, as you
soldiers.
call them, the day players and the
Yeah, totally.
and
different.
Cannon fodder.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
nobody who, I mean, and even the Proud Boys, you know, I know Enrique personally, even the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, they're soldiers. They're following orders. They had the 1776 returns. They had a plan. That was a plan. They had like it was written out plan. And right? You guys know about that, right?
Yeah, they
And
did. Occupy
who
buildings,
wrote it?
buildings.
Who wrote it? Who gave it to them?
I thought Roger Stone was involved in the
Well, Roger Stone and Flynn. Yeah.
Okay.
But what Trump did that was so fucking evil was he put people in every branch. I mean, this is the good news that's coming out of these interviews. What are the
Transcripts.
transcripts? Thank you. Is everybody's starting to see just how endemic it was. I mean, you know, on my rant, as you know, Greg, is that on November 9th, after Trump officially lost, November 9th, 2020, he fired Esper, who was the Secretary of Defense. And in Washington, D.C., I didn't know this until after I got back. And I went, well, where the fuck was the National Guard? I asked myself. I was alone all day on the west side, and I moved up through the crowd, and I got between the barricades, and I'm like surrounded by these people where you can't get within 2 blocks of the Capitol during the Kavanaugh hearings, or you would be mass arrested. You couldn't get within 2 blocks of it without getting arrested. And here, all of a sudden, they were like insects crawling up the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. And they knew that they were going to be safe. Because one of them told me at the end of the day, I mean, I filmed him saying, Mayor Bowser wanted to send in the National Guard to clear us out, but the Defense Department said, no, thank you.
Yeah. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's former USIC.
Yeah.
And he said if you let a fire team on any given day, an assault, as an assault team, for Capitol Hill, they would have been annihilated even before they entered the building.
Oh yeah. Oh,
so
I've dealt with the Capitol Police, other protests, and they'll push you and they'll knock they're
so
huge.
What do you think we'll ever get this of? Was it the size of the crowd? Like what did?
No, they were so.
No, I understand.
On November 9th. November 9th.
Yeah,
he gets rid of Esper because he knows Esper's not going to go in for the
right. And now we have Esper's testimony. We get it. We see
right exactly. And they put in this guy Chris Miller, who is Chris Miller actually called Spain about some voting machines that got teletransported with their brain. With some of these batshit QAnon conspiracy theory. He's like all in on that, and he actually called in search of this, right, when he was like the acting Secretary of Defense. And his chief of staff was Kash Zelig Patel.
Well, there he is.
Who's been in every branch of government.
Every single one.
Right? So what they did was, so then they, in DC, as I was about to say, that you may or may not know, I'm sure Andy knows, the only 2 people who can deploy the National Guard are the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense since 1802. The reason being, they're not a state. If they were a state, it's the governor, and it would have been. So they knew this. They knew if they, and so Chris Miller sent out a letter. You can Google it, on January 4th, telling them to stand down. They were told to stand down by the Secretary of Defense, and that they couldn't wear protective gear. He set them up. He's got blood on his hands. He set them up with the Capitol Police endured, with people who died and stuff.
And I think we heard from him, didn't we, Sandy? Kind of, I don't know if it was this past year, but maybe it was even
Arrogant.
2021 because it's been so long since anyone, since this happened. Didn't he go on? He was kind of spewing a lot of Daily Caller talking points and on like
He was on.
Absolutely.
Jill Banks had him on too.
Arrogant. I was just going to say that. I always forget her name.
Victor.
Jill has an incredible podcast with that young guy that's her partner.
Victor She, yeah.
Oh my God. And she played him. It's really worth a listen. It's long. It's like 45 minutes long or something. But she played him and he kept drinking. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a recovering alcoholic. This guy was drinking from a Diet Coke the whole time. And he was like slurring his words. And, I think he was getting sloshed. This is just my projection. But she played him for this longest time. And then he just got so pissed at her and he got really arrogant. And that's the thing. That's the thing with all of them. The Marjorie Taylor Greens, this Santos guy, all the people who were, Jack Posobiec was at the GOP gala.
Yeah.
I filmed him. He had no idea who I was. Now he knows.
Oh.
He blocked me a long time ago.
Oh yeah. Well, my history with him, but I blocked him. Since he blocked me and then he unblocked. It's so high school. He blocked me and then he unblocked me and then he blocked out of homeroom.
But so what do you see? So none of this really came out. It seemed like it was under the Senate. I remember when the Senate was looking at this stuff a couple years back, and before Mitch McConnell shut all that down, and Amy Klobuchar was going after the National Guard thing. Good to everyone watch Chris Miller interview on Gem Politics. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Gigi.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes.
And then that stuff.
Shout out to Jill Weinbach.
That stuff never picked back up again. And it was like he got sectioned off and over. Then you roll over to the House J6 committee, and it never ended up being anything. No. And it seems like it is the whole ball of wax.
It is everything. Thank you. I'm glad. I just feel like a crazy old lady. But
it's
the documentary. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The documentary that Nancy
Pelosi's daughter. Yeah,
that was on
the House. Yeah.
Well, the day when something dropped, I forget what it was, but on CNN they showed a segment. Now they've shown the whole film, but they showed a segment of Pelosi on the phone with Chris Miller, with Schumer, and they're telling him that he's got to get the National Guard, right? And then she's talking to somebody in Maryland. I think she's talking to the governor of Maryland. She is not in the chain of command. She couldn't. All the people on the right go, it's Pelosi's fault. And Marjorie Taylor Greene says that. That's what she's telling everybody. It's not Pelosi's fault. She couldn't do anything. But I think the reason she showed that clip, because I know the producer of that film, I said, find out for me if that's why they did it, was to show people that she wasn't in the chain of command and that she's talking to this guy, and also the acting, everybody was acting out there, the acting attorney general, is that who it was? And they were all gaslighting her. And they go, yeah, sure. Now, that call was made at 4:20 something.
Yeah.
The insurrection was over. I was there. I never saw the National Guard. I left at 5:30. It was over. And the reason the National Guard showed up, because Bowser had called a curfew at 6. And everybody had to be off the streets by 6 or they would be arrested. Kind of ironic.
Well, I think it's in that line of, there was just a very well thought out.
Oh yeah.
It could have been, no, these were dummies doing this, but there was time spent thinking about this, how to do it, all the different moving parts that they believed they needed to have in a certain place, doing a certain thing, following a schedule, having a narrative, saying this here, breach over there. We're supposed to be, maybe some disagreements because they are a bunch of clowns between Stone and Flynn, and the whole thing of like, we're supposed to occupy 55 different buildings or 50 different buildings with 50 people. Instead, you all were on one thing. Right. So there seemed to be some miscommunication that led to a thing that wasn't really going on script so much, but it wasn't a spontaneous event. And people like Chris Miller, people in these positions of authority, it wasn't just Donald sitting there waiting. What was he watching the TV the whole time? Because he was waiting for something to happen that was in the script and it wasn't quite happening.
Did you hear that he did?
Hang on, Sandy. Hang on. So
I'm sorry.
It's like, at what point, and maybe the January 6th, committee, the whole write-up of the underlying evidence and all the transcripts, I haven't taken the time to read through all that stuff. Maybe when I read through it all, I say, okay, well, it is all here. But I'm not hearing from the reporting that it is all there. It's almost as if this is still being treated as Donald Trump told a big lie. He did a bunch of crimes for his big lie. He still kind of tried even after the insurrection to do some crimes, but it really was just a sort of one day spontaneous event. These people showed up, and even if the DOJ is putting them in jail for seditious conspiracy, it was just the militia guys with the eye patch that live in the halls because they're weird and we don't know what to do about these people. They're just crazy. It still seems like it's there, right, guys?
No, it's still going on. And if you listen to War Room, and Bannon, I shot 2 of Bannon's perp walks.
Yeah.
He got convicted. Why is he not in fucking jail?
No, I shot all their perp. I shot Manafort's perp walk.
The judge
I shot Michael Cohen's
stated
perp walk.
on a pending appeal the sentence.
The judge did what, Andy?
Stayed his sentence pending appeal.
That's
so
right.
we got to hear from the circuit first to determine whether or not he's going to serve a day in jail, at least on the charges.
There's 2 cases, right, Andy? There's 2 cases, isn't there? There's one that's one is the build the wall.
Right. That I think is being investigated by Manhattan DA now.
Yeah.
Because he was found not guilty on the federal level. But the contempt, there were 2 contempt charges against him.
Right.
And those are he was found guilty, as we know. But the judge, which is bizarre to me, said, "Oh, we're going to stay your sentence until such time as the Second Circuit, reviews the appeal." So,
okay, so you say that's bizarre to you.
That is bizarre to me.
Okay, so do we know about this? Anything about this judge? Does it matter?
I mean, I don't know anything more than what's out in the public eye. I know that he, I think, was appointed by Trump, but I'm not or Trump, some sort of Trump supporter, but I don't know.
Was he flamenco dance partners with Aileen Cannon? Really?
Yeah.
That's the question. Okay, so we're now at an hour 24, and see, this is the problem that we have. I love everybody so much. I want to just keep talking to everybody, and we can't because the show needs to end at a certain point. And my co-host has indicated before the show began, she has to leave at a certain time.
I do have to leave. I was texting to say I'm gonna be a little late. I try not to go out for New Year's Eve because I'm always so worried about the traffic and it's really raining here. So we're doing a little bit tonight so that we can not be out on the night everyone's drinking and driving. And I don't
so I think it's all coming down. What's that, Dana?
I want to know where she's going.
Just out to dinner. Yeah.
We'll find out about it later. It'll be some fancy thing.
Right.
So look at her. She's all dressed up. She's dressed to the nines here.
I'm not. I'm literally not.
Sure. Okay. I feel like this is all headed to some sort of end times rapture thing. So maybe that's when the rapture happens. What really happens is that we find out who the pipe bomber was, right? Steve Bannon finally goes to jail.
No. What about Marjorie Taylor Greene's her security lady that looks exactly like her?
Oh,
exactly. Have you seen that? Have you seen the picture of them together? Google it. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene and this woman. She looks like something out of some special ops movie,
But we have a Secret Service. I think maybe we'll get some more about the Secret Service too.
Which
Greg.
Biden does not trust. That was in the news this week too. Biden's like, I don't even talk to I don't want these guys around when I'm talking.
Dog biting incident apparently was.
I think there's a criminal investigation now regarding Secret Service. Regarding the deletion of emails or something like that.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting
that was
things.
Something that just broke.
Really? Is that right?
A day or 2 ago.
Who's investigating? Who?
I think it's DOJ.
Oh.
It has to be DOJ. No one else has jurisdiction really over them unless in that regard.
Can I say one thing about the where Smith came from?
Yeah.
I interviewed a guy who was the chief prosecutor at the World Court in The Hague once, and he prosecuted Milosevic.
Yeah.
And Milosevic defended himself as a story. I knew nothing at the time when I met this, but it's all coming back to me. And this guy used e-discovery, Andrew, which is like, and Milosevic had stacks of papers that didn't even fit in his cell, right? Thousands and thousands of papers. And this guy does on the computer, right? And these guys do not fuck around.
No.
I mean, the World Court is like serious. That's right. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I mean, they've handled some of the some of the worst people that was ever born on this planet have appeared there. So yeah, I mean, the Hague certainly. I mean, the United States is not a signatory to the Hague Treaty, so none of our people obviously go there. But
didn't Trump take us out of that?
No. That's
World Court.
We never were a signatory on that treaty, so we're not part of that world. They don't have jurisdiction over anyone in America. It's like ceding them a certain sovereignty.
It's like America is to the Hague what all these rich assholes are to Americans, right? Just above the law.
Yeah.
The other thing that broke is that Mark Meadows, they didn't find enough evidence in North Carolina.
I can't even believe that. No,
what was that? What? I missed that.
Mark Meadows is going to get off, even though he fucking registered to vote at a goddamn fucking trailer park that he did not own.
Yeah, the election fraud stuff. What was that? The North Carolina Attorney General's office.
Insane. That person should be fucking ashamed of him or herself.
I mean, look,
Wow.
What,
I don't know.
Andy?
This is what it is. It's like something good
Right,
happens.
What, Andy?
One more
I don't
thing.
like that. I mean, I just, it just rings to me of two systems of
exactly
justice in this country, and we really just need to fight with all our power to change that. I don't like it. He broke the law. It was there. It's in front of us. We're not just basing it on a narrative. Oh, we don't like Mark Meadows because he's a jerk, or because he's involved with these people. He did something definitive on paper. It's not a he said, she said issue here. That is, you can easily get a jury to convict him on, if they follow, and I still believe very much in the jury system in this country, by the way. There is some jury nullification issues sometimes, but for the most part, they're pretty good. They get it right. At least with dozens of cases I've tried.
But Steve Bannon is out there every single day. Flynn is out there every single day with the Christo-fascist. Every day he's got some kind of rally somewhere in Middle America, talking about Jesus.
We got freedom of speech, and unless somebody's a flight risk or has a real bad criminal record, they're not going to lock someone up like that.
No, but they're planning the next one. That's the point I'm trying to say.
Look, Sandy, I agree with you. No, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Do you think we need domestic terror laws?
I don't think laws aren't working so good. I don't know if we need another law to enforce the ones we have.
I think what we need more so is something better than FARA, something between FARA and espionage. There's a big freaking gray area there, and these guys exploit that. Oh, so I'm not a foreign agent. My bad. I'll pay the fine and serve, my 2 weeks in jail, for FARA.
I think
was the guy that got
whatever the acronym is, it should be called BERIC. That should be the acronym.
I was just going to, you read my mind. I was just going to mention him. I shot his perp walk too. So what? Barrett gets off.
I'm Barrett.
He got off.
Yeah,
right?
He did. Yes, he
bad,
did.
Bad guy, that guy.
That's
Not a
shocking.
good
Bad guy.
That shocked me.
Bad guy.
But why I'm bringing this up is, to me, if you're leaning into the FAR thing, if it can be understood that, again, back to the content issue, that a huge part of an attack, of warfare now, is content, is coming in through these chaos agents who are speaking on behalf of someone else that seeks our harm.
Yeah.
That's not equal.
Right. I mean, these are, you're acting as a vector to a hostile intelligence service.
That's right.
That's deploying, weaponized propaganda against, American citizens. Most people out there won't be able to discern that. They won't, they won't look at that as something that's attacking them, literally attacking their psyche, attacking their mind.
Yeah.
it just, we need to do better in terms of preserving our free speech rights and our right to free association with, protecting us from this dangerous, these dangerous things that, hybrid warfare, from these countries, expose us, that's exposed to us.
Yep. Warning labels.
Yeah.
Don't smoke if you're pregnant.
Don't smoke this.
All right. So I guess this concludes the show here. I want to say thank you to Dana and Sandy and Andy for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys, for
yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed talking to you guys. I feel like a crazy old lady. I talk to myself. It's so nice to talk.
It's good.
I never go out.
Really nice for me to spend time with you, especially after my COVID haze. So thank you for indulging.
Yeah.
Sorry if I was a step slow.
No,
here
you're
today.
great.
It's okay. You're forgiven. And Greg and I, when we did talk before you got pretty sick, it was like we were talking about the show and like, let's just have our friends on. I just want to see our friends.
Yeah.
So it was so
Happy
great
New Year, everybody.
you guys.
Yeah.
Great time.
Yeah.
Appreciate the invite, guys.
Yeah.
Totally.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the great comments as usual. Always wonderful comments. And Happy New Year, everybody. May
Happy New Year.
2023 be better than 2022.
That's right.
Yes.
Amen.
All right, guys.
Happy New
Bye-bye.
Year.